Now it's time for part three. I shall ask some questions about your professional experience and career. My first question is, what are the greatest challenges you have faced?
Frankly, my greatest challenge has been selling my ideas to my management. As a few of my managers used to say, I think outside the box and I'm too far ahead of my time. That sometimes my ideas were too much, were off the beaten track. I remember when I went to Alaska in 1985 during Christmas to sell Prudhoe on applying hydraulic fracturing to the Prudhoe field, and the operation manager in ARCO at the slope, after I sat down, he said, "What are you coming here for?" I said, "I'm coming here to try to apply a new technology to Prudhoe." Well, he said, I'm not going to sacrifice wells that produce 1,000 or 2,000 barrels a day by messing with them. I said, well, at least give us a chance to prove that hydraulic fracturing can improve the production. And at the time, we were just about getting off the plateau in Prudhoe. And then he said, so what do you want? I said, I want 3 or 4 wells to try the technology. He said, 1 well. I'm not going to sacrifice 3 wells. And I said, just 1 well is not going to be sufficient, because if it works, it might be, you think it might be a fluke. If it doesn't work, you're going to kill the technology. At least I need 3. And he said, well, I'll think about it. And we went ahead to the field, did the first frac job in Prudhoe. Alaska did not frac any Prudhoe wells. They were fracking the other fields that were tight, Kuparak, for instance. But Prudhoe was considered to be prolific. We took the first well production from 1,500 to 5,500 barrels a day. And we finished the job, left the field, went to the airport, flew back home, and we usually get the half a day off because we fly through the night. And I found a phone call in my office saying, be at the office at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. and Dallas time was 7 a.m. Anchorage time. And I went 10 a.m. to my manager's office per request, and we had the operation manager of Prudhoe on the other line. And he said to my boss, is he here? And I said, yeah, he's in. He said, okay, tell him I have the 9 wells he wants. I said, I only asked for 3. He said, no, you asked me for 7. I said, no. So what happened is I think he was very convinced. And after that, the rest is history, because Prudhoe have at least 60 to 70% of all its wells fracked. That was the very first frack job. That was one of the challenges. The second challenge was when we actually went to work on heavy oil reservoir in Prudhoe, much shallower than the main field now. It's called West Sac. And they had tried 18 frac jobs, tried to increase the production. Very heavy oil in the 1,000 centipoise viscosity. And we thought about it heavily. And then me and my co-worker, the late I'm sorry, his name escaped me right now, Mitch Cornett, who was a downhole hardware guy. And we invented this piece of hardware that would allow us to do a frac job and end up with a gravel pack job in the same run. So we switch from being fracking outside the zone to filling the annulus with gravel pack. Before us, they were trying fracking or gravel packing separately. But we invented and built and applied the first frac pack job in history. It was in West Sac in 1986. The last two wells of West Sac, they were having budget for 20 fracs, and we applied the frac pack to two wells, and we got the well production to go from 75 to 450 barrels per day, which was 3 times the highest production they ever achieved. And there was the birth of the frac pack technology, which allowed us not just to exploit heavy oil reservoirs without having sand production, but also applied to almost every well in the development of the Gulf of Mexico. Frac pack was used in almost every well in the turbidites of the Gulf of Mexico. So it was a tremendous boon to the country, and we at peak produced 3.5 million barrels a day from the Gulf of Mexico. So that was the second challenge that I have, because when we started, everybody was very pessimistic that after 18 trial, what is new that we can apply to reverse the disappointing results. The third challenge came when in Alaska, after operating for 20 years, the Environmental Protection Agency asked the operators on the slope to clean all the open pits on the slope. Open pits are where the waste of the drilling operations and the cuttings from the 1,000+ wells on the slope were stored. So we had 10 billion pounds of cuttings in open pits on the North Slope. To move them outside of the region and ship them to where we can get rid of them safely would have cost $800 to $900 million. The operator had to come up with this budget. We thought long and hard and came up with this patent on actually using the cuttings as a propellant for waste injection operations. In other words, we slurry the cuttings and we mix them with a little bit of viscous fluid, the viscosity coming in from the fact that quite a bit of them was drilled using oil-based mud, and inject the slurry in fracking through batching process. And we have the first patent of this process issued to us. By that time, I was leaving ARCO, going to BP, and we continued to work as a joint team because BP and ARCO were operator of the North Slope, and the cost would have come up from both companies. And we successfully got rid of the 10 billion pounds over a span of about 11 years or so in 6 wells, total of 6 wells. The cost of the operation was probably less than 100 million over this period. Complete cleanup of the North Slope from all the drilling waste. The operation continues in the same site. It's called the GNI, grind and inject site in the North Slope. And my co-authors of the patent, mostly retired now like me, but it was the beginning of a very modification to hydraulic fracturing technology to work in cleaning up the environment for the oil and gas industry. And that was the motivation for me to co-found the company Advantech Waste Management Services with my son. And we were involved in cleaning up drill waste and production waste worldwide in many countries through consulting and now through operating several divisions and several sites in the country, in the US. Those were the 3 challenges that I would actually consider to be my biggest challenges. And by the way, 2 of those ended up getting an award from the chairman of both companies, ARCO in 1987, and BP in 1993 for adding to the bottom line, for innovative technology, and for improving productivity in both companies. So I'm very proud of those challenges. And unless I was challenged, I don't think the achievement would have been as remarkable.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for sharing them with us. It was very inspiring. Since we talked about some memories from your career, I'd like to ask my second question is about what's your favorite memory from your career so far? Favorite.
My favorite memory in my career is when I actually I started my career in an interesting field. Where I was actually working on projects and contracts in my early company, Teratech, for the Defense Department. And my job was to actually, before the underground nuclear testing of any weapon, we had to do some measurements and some calculation to ensure that the test will not vent radioactive material to the atmosphere. Unfortunately, the first two tests underground, after signing the test ban treaty between Russia and America, both vented. So they were nuclear material or radioactive material that went to the atmosphere. So this contract was set up was a company I worked for, and my job was to make these measurements, get core samples from the tunnels of the test site, and then measure rock properties and calculate what would be the impact of detonating the bomb. And if you can imagine, the bomb generates high pressure, compressed air, heat, and all of this drives the rock and the tunnel into having cracks and fractures that would extend from the tunnel all the way to the surface. This is a hydraulic fracturing process. And I developed at the time the calculation algorithms and the use of the rock property data into a model. And then I was asked, you asked me about the highlight. I was asked to actually talk to the Department of Energy. At the time, it wasn't really a department, it was the Energy Research and Development Agency, about whether we could use these algorithms to calculate how big fractures can propagate away from the well in retrieving of the oil and gas resources. So here I am coming from the Defense Department being asked to help. That was in the 70s, was 77. To help address the energy crisis in this country by looking at how do we anticipate and predict where the massive hydraulic fractures would go once they are created. And when we actually started applying the procedures to the oil and gas, it was quite a simple transformation. Make the kind of measurements that we need and apply the kind of algorithms, and we can predict where the fractures go. And again, I had a very good team working with me, and we applied all these procedures to the early wells in West Virginia, a well that was fracked in 1977. And interestingly, I followed its production through 2008, and it was still producing. And that, to me, being able to adapt technology that was developed for one completely different area to a new field was an inspiration to me and a highlight of my career. When we published the work, and we got a lot of compliments on the systematic way we dealt with hydraulic fracturing, design, creation, and implementation.
Perfect. Thank you very much. How would you describe your career in 3 words?
Challenging, rewarding, and very satisfying.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Thank you very much. Well, what effect do you want to have on your industry with your work?
I was really happy when I got the R. McConnell Award from the SPE and AIME because its citation was quite, for me, was basically the ultimate in my life, that I was being cited for both helping increase the resources for the nation as well as improving the quality of life, because it was basically given to us, to me, on the basis of my adaptation of the hydraulic fracturing for the waste management, underground waste management, which included H2S in Kazakhstan, cutting injection in the US and Canada and Venezuela and Brazil and worldwide, Vietnam, China, etc., as well as the work I did in the Caspian of allowing the Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan companies to actually explore and produce and drill in the Caspian Sea without having to impact the population of the fish that produce caviar. Caviar is more valuable than oil for these countries, and we allowed the companies to drill and not worry about the cost, because we would take the drill and production waste and inject them under isolated zones in the subsurface. So all of this was very satisfying. Currently, we have even extended that technique to get rid of human solid waste that comes out of the sewer systems in Los Angeles. So we handle the solid waste of the 1/3 of the city of and 1/3 of the solid waste of the city of Los Angeles from its municipal station in the port of LA. And in this site, we actually co-locate with the municipal station. We take the solid, they send us the solids with some water, we mix them, we make a slurry, we inject it underground in an isolated underground zone at depth of about 7,000 feet. And within 4 to 5 years, they get composted underground, and then they start actually forming methane gas. So not only that we sequester that human waste, and also sequester the methane and the CO2 that may actually be produced if that human waste was spread on the ground as the process used to be. So we sequester CO2, we sequester methane, but we also produce a productive gas that we can actually operate some of our machinery on site with. And that was the basis for awarding me the Robert E. McConnell Award by SPE and AIME. And we're looking forward to spreading that technology in the US and worldwide to protect both the waters and the lands from the impact of human waste.
Perfect. Thank you very much. My last question is going to be about Advantech. What are you most proud of regarding to Advantech? What are you most proud of regarding to Advantech?
Proud of or product? Proud of.
Yeah, proud of.
I'm proud of the young people that we trained, and they are now spread throughout the industry. They are veterans of Advantech that work in Shell, BP, Oxy, the universities. We have Garhi in the university. We have others in Aramco and in PDO. So that was to me one of the unique situation, because we were basically at some time, we were probably a unique institution that trained rock mechanics people, geomechanics people with practical experience with the industry, and yet we did some advanced technology development and research work. The second one is the ability to have helped some countries to by talking to the regulators there to accept the technology of waste management by injection. The Caspian Sea is one, Indonesia is one, Tunisia is one, Germany is one. The European EEC adopted our produced water management procedure as guidelines for management of produced water in the continent. So I'm proud of the contribution an oil and gas service company did to humanity and to the green. We were very early on part of the green movement in the oil and gas industry, and I am very proud of being at the forefront of the ESG movement in the oil and gas industry. Environmental safety and governance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for answering our questions. It was the end of our part 3.